Hey there folks, I'm Jeff, your tabletop technician here on the Dice Tower, and I'm continuing Jeff Week this week with my top 100 games, this time running 60 through 51. Let's go ahead and start off the list. Number 60 is a fantastic family game, the very beautifully crafted Flamecraft. This is from Cardboard Alchemy and Lucky Duck Games with fantastic art from Sandra Tang. This is, at its heart, a contract fulfillment game or an order fulfillment game where players are trying to turn in various ingredients to craft a number of items, be it potions, jewelry, clothing, weapons, whatever you want to call it. And you're doing that by moving these dragons from various shops, installing new dragons to work in those shops, collecting resources from those shops, and maybe triggering some special actions depending on the difficulty in which you're playing. And all of that to just collect a bunch of points by fulfilling these various contracts. The thing with this game is that it's fantastic. I mean, the production here is top-notch, and it certainly helps with this deluxe edition that I have here. And I think that because of that, a lot of folks have shied away from the game because they think that it's too cute. They think it might be maybe a little too childish or too lightweight. And that's honestly not true. What I've really enjoyed about this game is that you have to go into it with a strategic mindset. You have to plan ahead. You have to sort of set yourself some goals to work towards. But you do also have to be a bit flexible. You have to be able to see when various scoring opportunities present themselves and jump on them when the timing is right. And I think it is that really neat blend of tactical and strategic decision space that makes this game such a joy to play and makes it number 60 on my list, Flamecraft. You know, you can never go too wrong with a dexterity game, and my number 59 in this series is Pitch Car. Now, I'm showing you Pitch Car Mini here. There is a larger scaled version of this game, but I picked up Pitch Car Mini many years ago when my daughter was quite young, and I thought that maybe the smaller pieces and smaller footprint of the game might work a little better for small hands. And for the most part, I think I was correct. However, the mini game of this is quite hard to find these days, long since out of print. I do believe they still occasionally make reprints of the standard size version of the game, and of course I think nowadays I would get whichever one I can get my hands on. This is a racing game, actually the fifth racing game on this list, and you are simply flicking these wooden components around a wooden track, trying to get the straight line and trying to obviously complete a number of laps. The rules here are pretty nebulous. There are some rules you can, certainly incorporate when cars flip over or fly off the track, but for the most part, you can set any number of laps you want, any victory condition that you want to use, and you can also incorporate household items into the track, right? You can kind of craft your own jumps and ramps and obstacles and such, and just sort of make this game whatever you want it to be. My family has had a ton of fun playing this over the years. It doesn't get to the table as much now as it used to, as we've kind of moved into more Euro games and such, but still a phenomenal game, a lot of fun to play. Pitch Car, my number 59. Let's go back to the big black beyond for my number 58, because this is the fifth space game on the list. This is Starship Captains by Czech Games Edition. This is a game that you could easily say is very Star Trek adjacent, with the red, gold, and blue status of the various characters, the workers that you have at your disposal. And you're moving a spaceship across galaxies, going to different planets, trying to accomplish missions. There are a number of tracks you can kind of work on at the same time, even a bit of a engine building element with various upgrades that you can install in your ship. I've had a lot of fun with this. I really love the immersion and the theme. It comes through very well in this game. A lot of folks would say that this game sort of seems to be missing something, and I would tend to agree. I feel like the mission completion aspect of this game is far too powerful. You cannot ignore it, and you have to pretty much devote every one of your actions to completing missions. The other aspects of the game, like those various tracks and the engine building of your ship, are sort of always in the peripheral, and if you try to focus too much on them, you'll just fall way behind in score. I would love to see some expansions that build up some of the other aspects of this game, but something I've still had a lot of fun playing. Again, I love the immersion in this. I love the theme, the setting. I love the fact that it's very Star Trek-like, and I certainly wouldn't mind a more IP-fitting version of this game, but I'm very happy to play Starship Captains, my number 58. Coming back to Earth for my number 57, because this is Honey Buzz by Elf Creek Games. This is a combination of a lot of different systems in a single board game. You've got some tableau building, a little bit of engine building, some worker placement. You're trying to build this honeycomb hive in front of you, and the way that you arrange these dual hexagonal tiles will eventually trigger off various actions when you complete a inner hexagon into which you'll eventually place these sap tokens that then help you produce the honey and fulfill orders. It also does a pretty good job at immersing you into that theme, in addition to the honeycomb network that you're building, and of course the honeybee workers that you have. It also incorporates this idea of a honey line or a bee line, in that you have to always place more workers at a worker placement spot than any other worker has there. So if a player has 2 bees there, then you have to place 3 bees, and so on and so forth. And so it becomes a very challenging puzzle, a very, very good game. I'm also very excited. The new Fall Flavors expansion just landed on my doorstep over this past weekend. I haven't got a chance to play it, but I'm looking forward to checking that out. Adds a ton of new stuff into this game. Honey Buzz, great game, number 57. Number 56 takes us back into the exciting and tense world of small 2-player games. This is Lacuna. Lacuna is a very unique abstract game using a cloth and a number of wooden flower tokens and some metal worker placement tokens. You sort of spread these wooden tokens out onto this beautiful silk mat at the start of each game, and then each player takes turns placing out these metal tokens, taking 2 of the flower tokens that they have placed their worker on, a straight line between those 2 tokens, and then once you have placed all of your, I believe 6 worker tokens or player tokens, you're then going to every remaining wooden piece on the mat and seeing who has the closest of their tokens to it, and then taking those tiles. At the end of the game, simply whoever has the most pieces of the most colors wins the game. It is very, very easy to teach. A beautiful game on the tabletop. We've taken this often to local pubs and breweries here in the area, and almost always someone will stop by and go, "What is this? What does it do? How does it work?" And of course, you can pick this up at a lot of common big box stores like Barnes & Noble, so it's a very easy game to get your hands on. And that's really all there is to say about it. A nice little puzzle game, a very relaxing game, number 56, Lacuna. Number 55 is the 5th deck building game of this list, and it's a game that I had never heard of until it was on a trade table at a local gaming convention here in Richmond. This is Xenon Profiteer from none other than Eagle Gryphon Games. I really did enjoy the theming of this game. Players are representing a Xenon business trying to collect Xenon gas to then fulfill various contracts. And you're doing that with this interesting distillation process. You're collecting these gas cards. You have nitrogen, oxygen, krypton, and xenon. And each turn, you usually only get to distill off one of those gases. And you always have to go in that order. You have to purge nitrogen before you can purge oxygen, then the krypton. And then if you have any xenon left in your hand, and it's the only gas card you have in your hand, you then get to claim it, extracting it from the, extracting that gas, and then you can start using it to fulfill contracts. And so as you're gathering up these gas cards, you're trying to permanently get rid of the nitrogen and oxygen, which doesn't always happen, and get down to that pure xenon gas. And so it's a very unique deck building game in the way that those particular cards cycle around. You also get to build an engine, you can improve your distillation process, and various other number of mechanisms of the game, even increasing your hand size and sort of standard deck building mechanisms. But I've certainly had a lot of fun playing Xenon Profiteer, my number 55. Number 54 is the third game of this list that I don't own. Well, hang on a second. No, actually, it's right here. This is Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King. I don't own this game. I'm actually borrowing this from a friend, and I've had it for a little while. I need to get it back to him, but it just happens to be here in time for me to film this episode. This is a tableau building game, a tile placement game, really. It's very, very similar in its nature and its appearance to Carcassonne, in that you're placing out these tiles and you have to continue the landscape from tile to tile, but there are a lot of extra added elements to it. You're trying to get various scoring opportunities off of various tiles. You're trying to collect barrels or sort of connect these barrels back to your hometown to be able to get extra coins. What I really did like about this game is the sort of economy of it. You start off each round with 3 tiles. You're choosing one to get rid of immediately, and then you set your price on the other 2 using your own money to determine the price that you want for those tiles. Now, another player can pay you that much money to take the tile from you, or if no one buys the tiles, then you spend the money that you assigned to them to place them in your own tableau. And so there is this really unique sort of challenge of, okay, either I really, really want these tiles, so I'm going to set the price really high, but maybe not too high that someone will pay me all that money, and that just helps towards your endgame scoring. Now, I've actually borrowed this because my friend has all the expansions in here, and I wanted to try out some of the more advanced modes of the game, and I really did enjoy those as well. It's just not a game that I get to the table very often, not a game that my family is really interested in, and so not one that I've bothered to pick up for myself. It is also, I'll mention this now, the only Alexander Pfister game on this list. I find this one to be the most approachable of all of his games that I have played. Anyways, that is Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King, my number 54. Going back to some family games from my number 53, this is First Rat by Pegasus Spiele. This is a fantastically cute game where rats have discovered that the moon is made of cheese, and they have decided to somewhat work together to collect the various components to make a space program, but all the while competing to be the first rat into space. You have this track that you are moving eventually up to 4 rats along, trying to collect various ingredients, also trying to get more rats out into play. There's some engine building abilities you can kind of grab, making your movement a little bit more flexible, maybe collecting extra ingredients. And then throughout the game, you're turning in those ingredients to work towards those the space shuttle, the parts of the spaceship and such that you're building, and you simply have these cubes that you're placing onto these tracks as you donate those ingredients. And of course, the quicker that you get those cubes out, the quicker that you contribute to the space program, the more points that you're going to get. You can even turn in food, cheese, of course, as rations for the eventual ratronauts that will go into space. It's just a beautiful game, very, very fun, very approachable, but still a decent amount of strategy for adults. I've played this with adults, and we've all had a very, very good time with First Rat, my number 53. I'm really looking forward to talking here about number 52. This is my 6th and final racing game of this entire list. Racing is not one of my favorite genres of games, but I think that this is by far the best racing game I have ever played. This is Vector Race in the only octagonal box I personally have ever seen. This is from Italy, and in this game there are no dice, there are no cards, there is no luck. You have a number of these movement vector tiles. Think like X-Wing or other movement-based tactical games where you're putting sort of a measuring stick out in front of your car, in this case is to then move to the other end of that track. And then at the end of your turn, you decide if you're going to shift up or shift down. You also have nitro and tire tokens that you can spend to sort of enhance the movement at the end of that vector track, but also enabling you to skip gears in one direction or the other. And so you have to constantly vie for position. You have to really plan your entrance into each corner. This is also one of those games where there is no board in here. You have these just simple cardboard tokens that represent the corners of a track. track, and you can lay them out in any way that you want. You can also, of course, use any household items to help create your course. The only downside that I have to this game is that because you're using cardboard components and these movement vectors, there is a lot of fudge factor in how you place out these components. And so it's very easy to have a number of cars that aren't all quite facing the same direction, and that inserts some randomness into the game, which is just really, really hard to get around. Unless, of course, you're playing the online representation of this game on Board Game Arena, which is fantastic and, of course, plays out quicker. You don't have to worry about trying to build a track on your tabletop. But regardless, I've had a lot of fun with Vector Race. It is a difficult game to come by, but I just love its simplicity and its otherwise lack of randomness through dice, cards, and whatever. I feel like this is a game where skill really is how you win. Vector Race, my number 52. We're already here at number 51, and I tell you, it's been a pretty interesting list here, hasn't it? We've had everything from dragons to spacecraft, bees to cheese, and we're going to close it out today with some peppers, because this is Scoville by the now defunct Tasty Minstrel Games. This is another contract fulfillment, order fulfillment game. I'm starting to realize how many of those I have put into this list, where players are moving around a field collecting peppers to then fulfill various orders or make various pepper-themed recipes, all of course to collect points. The part of it that is interesting is that you're moving across this farm field, as I mentioned, and you're collecting peppers by referencing a color chart of the peppers that you walk in between. So when you move in between two peppers, you collect a pepper that is sort of the offspring or the breed, if you will, when you combine those two colors. And so new players especially have to constantly check this chart. They're trying to figure out, well, if I need purple, what do I walk between? If I need brown or black, what do I walk in between? And it's not quite as obvious to new players. It can frustrate some new players, but I think that once you start to memorize that color chart, the game becomes a lot more comfortable to you and a lot more cutthroat as you kind of know where you want to go. I really enjoy also the way that the turn order works on this. So you have some things that happen in turn order, some things that happen in reverse turn order. You're bidding on your turn order at the beginning of each round. And while I don't really care for bidding games, there are times in this where you want to go last. And so it is kind of unique in how that can play out from round to round. I actually did a playthrough of this on one of the Spring Spectaculars. You can still check that out here on the channel. Just a neat, unique game. Also one that is coming back out to print. Even though TMG is out of business, another company has picked up the license, and I know that there will be another version of this game coming out soon. Looking forward for more folks getting to check out Scoville. That is the bottom, or the top half, whatever, it's half of my list of 100 games. 50 more to go, starting to get into the real favorites, and I am looking forward to it. I'll see you again soon, folks. Cheers.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video on the Dice Tower. Hey, do you want to know what's going on with Dice Tower? Do you want to know about our events, our cruises, special things that we're going to do live here in the Dice Tower? Subscribe to Dice Tower Digest. Go to DicetowerDigest.com. It's a newsletter that we send out bi-weekly. We won't use your email for anything else. This is just to get you some information about the Dice Tower so you'll be up to date. Thanks for watching.